I'm back and I'm still following the case of Betty. Betty has pled guilty to the offence called hindering investigation. The case relates to the police investigation into the death of a man at Head and Greeter 2 days after Christmas in 2022. That investigation has resulted in 3 people being charged with murder. All are still before the court in Newcastle and haven't pled yet. When I was at Curry at Betty's last court date, I was expecting Betty to be sentenced. In my experience, the magistrate at Curry usually gives a good description of the circumstances and details, so I will likely find out a lot of information listening to the sentencing. Problem is, I'm in Sydney during the next court date later in April 2024. Being in the CBD of Sydney, I acknowledge the Gadigal of the Eora Nation as the traditional custodians of this area. I'm here at the Downing Centre in Sydney. It is the local court for the CBD of Sydney. Downing Centre started its life as an emporium in the early 1900s. It was originally called Mark Foy's Piazza store and had Sydney's first escalator. In the 1970s, the then Foy building had both courts and shops for a while, but it is now completely full of courts and is said to be the busiest local court in New South Wales. It has multiple courts and can hear hundreds of cases, sometimes 500 a day. You may be familiar with the Downing Centre, as it is common to see defendants being filmed leaving the building for TV news reports, particularly if they have a public profile. There's also a payphone. So I can't make it to Curry to hear Betty's case because I'm in Sydney, and I'm hoping the journo I saw there last time returns and writes a story about the case. The media can be a great source of information about court cases, but how they cover all the courts, I still haven't worked that out. While I wait to see what happens at Curry, I thought I would discuss other cases that involve hindering an investigation. Remember, I don't use a person's real name when I discuss cases. Just a disclaimer, the following cases I'm about to discuss involves death. Please skip this part if you prefer. You won't miss any details about Betty's case. The first example is the Heckenberg car crash in September 2023. This is in Sydney's southwest. The headline reads, "Driver who allegedly killed siblings in high-speed crash has charges upgraded." The media reports the circumstances were a sister, 24 years old, had picked up her brother from work. He was only 15 years old. Only 100 metres from their home, a driver allegedly more than 45 k's over the speed limit crashes into them, killing the siblings, and the driver fled the scene, allegedly. The driver is charged with 2 counts of aggravated dangerous driving, occasionally death. These are serious indictable offences. I'm making this in April 2024. The case is before the Liverpool local court and the driver remains in custody and hasn't pled yet. Now on to the hindering investigation part. The headline reads, "Father of driver's real name becomes 4th person charged in relation to the Heckenberg crash which killed brother and sister." The media reports that soon after the driver is arrested, they arrest 4 other people and charge them with a few different offences, including hindering an investigation. The reports say that the first hinder case is the driver's father, 61 years old, and it's alleged he made up false reports to police about the crash. The other 3 charged are reported as the partner of the driver, 22-year-old female, and 2 of the driver's friends, a 21-year-old male and a 20-year-old female, who have been charged with similar hindering offences. All 4 of the hinder cases are currently before Campbelltown local court and all have been granted bail. The driver's father and both the female and male friends haven't entered pleas yet, but the driver's partner has pled not guilty to hindering investigation. Just a quote from one of the many media stories about these hindering cases. The media story, when discussing the driver's partner, includes the following quote: "The fact that she allegedly misguides police in the early critical stages of this investigation is not only an egregious breach of community expectation, but of law," police prosecutors told Liverpool local court. I've learned a new word, egregious. It means outstandingly bad. So in summary, friends and family have been charged with hindering of an investigation into their friend and family member who is currently charged with serious indictable offences. The second example is also from Sydney. In September 2020, a 22-year-old man, who I will call Tim, was found fatally stabbed in a reserve at Emu Plains, which is near Penrith in Western Sydney. Hours before Tim's death, he and 2 friends had carried out an aggravated break and enter. It is reported the trio are pursued by a carload of people as they fled the scene of the break and enter. Then hours afterwards, Tim is found dead in the reserve. The next day, the two friends are charged with aggravated break and enter, and one of them, who I will call Barry, not his real name, is also charged with hindering an investigation. Now, no one had been charged in relation to the death at the time Barry is charged with hindering. What I mean is the police investigation is looking for a person or persons who have committed the murder. They may not have a name or names yet, but they were investigating people when Barry allegedly hindered the investigation. Police alleged Barry and another person, who I will name Peter, not his real name, had returned to the scene where Tim was and filmed the scene, which also captured some discussion between the incident by Barry and Peter. The police claimed this was evidence Barry and Peter were aware of who was responsible for the death. A quote from one of the media stories. Both Barry and Peter, the story actually uses their real names, by the way, have intimate knowledge of what occurred the previous night and who would be responsible for the murder. However, both having given the opportunity to tell police what occurred, have chosen not to tell police anything, end quote. Barry pled guilty to the aggravated break and enter, as well as hindering investigation, and was sentenced to 4.5 years imprisonment for both the offences together. Remember, hindering investigation has a maximum penalty of 7 years jail, while aggravated break and enter, aggravated because of the use of a weapon, has a maximum penalty of 20 years imprisonment. Peter was also charged with hindering investigation and pled guilty. He was sentenced at Penrith Local Court in 2020, but I couldn't find out what the sentence was in the end. By the way, 3 other people, all in their 20s, are charged with murder about a month after Tim's death in 2020. They all pled not guilty and will face a trial in May 2024. In summary, friends of the deceased are charged with hindering investigation. I discussed these 2 examples to show that friends and family of defendants, as well as friends and family of victims, can be and have been charged with hinder investigation. Of course, anyone can be charged with hinder investigation. I'll watch out to see if Betty is sentenced, and I'll keep you posted.